Really, anyone can start a business.
Yeah.
It's not hard, especially now when I see these kids that are doing like reselling stuff on Amazon and come up with these side hustles. And you could literally call someone and say, hey, can you help manufacture a protein bar for me? I don't want to even touch it. Just make the label, and I'm just going to sell it online. There's so many opportunities out there now. Figure it out. Like a side hustle is easy. Tell people, listen, you're in your cubicle for 9 to 5. I'm just say cubicle, but you're in your 9 to 5 job. What are you doing after 5 o'clock till 9?
Right.
Well, I'm going to have a glass of wine. Or, well, maybe figure out how you do that internet business or figure out how you start that side hustle. Fail fast. If you're going to make a bar or a cookie, make it small, get people to try it and see if it's going to work.
I love that. Yo, welcome to another episode of the Founder Podcast. Today, I am joined by Mr. Bruce Cardenas. I'm pronouncing that correct,
Cardenas, whatever you want to
whatever goes. So, Bruce was the former COO of Quest Nutrition, or formerly known as Quest Bar. You guys have probably all eaten it and participated in it. And he's got a really cool background. Like, when I was reading through his bio and being introduced to you, Bruce, I was just like, wait, what? Like, military and police background. Usually that doesn't turn into an entrepreneur, right?
Right. Usually blue collar and you retire with 25 years.
Right. Or if it turns into some type of entrepreneurship, it's usually something related to that type of field, right? Like, for example, my buddy, do you know Dan Caldwell?
Yeah, Tap Out.
I
know him well.
Yeah, so Dan and I, big buddies, right? So he's a background as a police officer, and because of it, he was into fighting and like hand-to-hand combat and that type of stuff, and so that kind of naturally turned into what it did, right, for him. And so for me, that was like the connection. For you, I'm like, wait, what? How does this even make sense?
I don't know. I met him years ago. Nice guy.
Oh, Dan's phenomenal. So, dude, jump into your story a little bit. Give us some of the background. So obviously you go and you got this military background. So usually that breeds a lot of discipline, right? Breeds a lot of authority and those type of things. At what point did you decide I want to go and be a corporate guy selling nutrition?
I could unwind it a little bit because I was just a middle class kid from New Jersey, an average DC student. And one of 5 kids, I had no ambition to do anything other than be a cop. But I had no path to get there. I was just a daydreamer in school.
So never originally weren't an entrepreneur or didn't want to even go down that path?
No, my father was a contractor and had his own business and wanted me to take over the business. But all I knew was I wanted to be a cop because, my neighbor was a cop. My uncle was a cop.
Yeah, what appealed to you about that?
I think the service thing, the look, the appeal, not knowing a lot about it. And I did ride-alongs as a cop. When I was in high school, they let me do ride-alongs. It was a little 2,000-person town with 6 police officers. And I went to the chief when I graduated high school and said, hey, I really want to join the department. And in his own kind way, he said, listen, you're young, you're dumb, and you're immature. But if you go in the Marine Corps, specifically the Marine Corps, I'll hire you when you get out. Grabbed my best friend and said, we're going to the Marine Corps. And then I realized New Jersey wasn't so big after all. Got to experience the world, so I joined the Marine Corps. Did a powerlifting meet when I was at Camp Pendleton down south here, and there was a career day, and I saw these different companies and police departments, and I said, shit, let's stay here. Beautiful people, beautiful weather, and you get paid. So I joined LAPD out of the Marine Corps.
Nice. And have you always been a big power lifter? I mean, you look like you're fit.
I've always enjoyed lifting heavy, different levels.
What's the most you've ever benched?
445.
445.
Yeah, you remember those numbers, right?
Yeah, oh yeah. So that was a single rep?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I had a decent I was
445 is phenomenal. The most I've ever gotten up is 305. So
and I had a pretty good, almost a 700-pound deadlift.
Wow.
Yeah. So I had pretty good numbers for a power. Nothing great. You're not going to the worlds, but so I still enjoy lifting heavy. But now I think it's more about the long game, right?
Yeah.
Staying alive. So
absolutely. So at what point? So I mean, tell us more of the story, right? So you get into law enforcement. You're going down that path.
Became a cop at LAPD, which was a dream come true. I mean, a really great department. And quickly realized you didn't get paid a lot of money. Right. And one of my good friends, I became good friends with him. He was a retired sergeant, had a bodyguard business, security business.
Right.
I started working for him.
So this is kind of a side hustle. Make some extra money.
Yeah, side hustle. And I had some experience because I was on a security detail when I was in the Marine Corps for the commanding general. So I've always been a servant leader. I've always enjoyed serving other people. And I quickly figured out, let me start my own business.
Yeah.
And it all equated to relationships. And one of my good friends owned a big transportation company, limo company. I said, I started this business. He said, well, let me help you. And next thing you know, I taking care of Mariah Carey and Ricky Martin and Mark Anthony, all the people in the
So
entertainment.
he already had all these connections.
He was driving them all.
Right.
And every time he needed something, he'd call me and say, I'm going to connect you with this person, this person, this person. And I started, literally, it was overwhelming. I was doing it myself, so I exited the police department after so many years to pursue the security and protection business.
And how long did you go down that route? I know. Currently, you're still.
I still
involved
currently
in that.
have a couple clients I take care of that are very well known, and still some are entrepreneurs. But it's funny now. When I first started out, there was only a handful of billionaires. Now they're everywhere, right? But most of my clients are billionaires now. It's crazy.
Right.
So I still do that. It's like another side hustle, right?
I mean, is that you personally driving, or are you just making the connections?
I don't drive really anymore, but I still personally, like this weekend's the Golden Globes. I'm going to take some of the Golden Globes.
That's awesome.
Personally. They
Awesome.
still, I think it's an attention to detail thing. I think people still want me.
Right.
I've sent other people, and sometimes it doesn't fare so well because the level of service, I'm a high level service person.
Yeah, as I experienced it. I mean, he brought in, for those that are watching here on YouTube or Spotify, he brought in a nice bag of snacks and little goodies and stuff like that.
Never come empty-handed.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So I can already tell that's true.
So I still do the security just as a side, but it's the strangest thing, serendipitously. I'm in the gym one day, and there's a woman I always see her doing cardio. Become gym friends, right?
Right.
Hey, what's up? And it turned out she and her husband had just started this company called Quest Nutrition. Shannon Penna, she goes by Quest Creator on Instagram, making the bars by hand in her kitchen, literally making them by hand, like rolling them out.
What year is this?
2010.
Wow.
9, 10.
Man, I didn't realize they've grown that fast.
It was quick, 9 years, and we sold. And she was literally making them by hand and taking them to the boot camps on the weekends, and the girlfriends were buying them, and the husband had like one of these light bulb moments because he was taking them to work. They had a software company, and these tech geeks were eating them, and they're the kind of guys eating Doritos and Red Vines and Red Bulls, and they actually like the protein bar. So he's like, "Whoa, we might be onto something."
Right.
His partners had no interest in it. They're like, "We're software guys. You're out of your mind. We're not making a protein bar." He still pursued it. Put up a website. Started making them by hand at a kitchen space at night. And I met them. They only had 2 flavors of bars. They were fairly new.
So, quick question.
Yeah.
Did the bars change very much over the years, or is it pretty much the same exact initial creation?
Almost identical. Some formulation changes. We had a fiber source change, but overall it was continually be a.
So it was always because I've always enjoyed like the cookies and cream.
One of our top sellers.
Yeah.
Chocolate chip cookie dough and cookies and cream.
It's always my go-to in a gas station. Boom,
Yeah.
give me a Quest
and
bar.
always high protein, low carb, and gluten free. That's always been our theme for the entire journey.
Yeah.
So we hit it off and became fast friends. And I remember she gave me a couple bars, and I saw her a week later and said, "Hey, if you're interested, I'm doing a celebrity golf tournament. I'm doing the protection, but my friend's running all the publicity. If you want to get me some bars," and she said they were great. Yeah, let me give you a couple boxes of bars, and I got them in the hands of the publicist. This was before any social media. Facebook just started, and it was really just for business. And I was smart enough. I don't even know where this came from because I didn't know the word content meant. I had a BlackBerry. iPhones weren't even out yet. But I asked my friend, I said, I think we should probably get some pictures. And she was in charge of all the PR. So she had her media people. They did some videos of people taste testing, like Mario Lopez was there and some decent names. I brought all that information. I gave it to them. And they were like,
here's some content.
Yeah, content. I had to look up what that meant.
Right.
And they were like, whoa, like, how do you know these people? I said, oh, there's people I do business with. I continued to help them. I got on a set of Extra with Mario Lopez. I got it. Jessica Simpson was a client at the time. I was taking care of her. So I just started getting in people's hands. And about 9 months in, Ron, the chairman, founder, took me to lunch and said, listen, we're stealing from you. You are doing all this good stuff for us, and we're not doing anything for you. Either you're working for another company, like a sabotage us, or you're just a good human being. And I guess they figured I was a good human being. So
you're like, I'm just a guy with a background in military and stuff, and I'm not an entrepreneur, but I just am naturally good at it.
But I like your protein bars.
Right.
And I guess I figured out I was a relationship guy because everything I did was relationship oriented. And I ended up, one thing I tell people is when I was helping them and I started hanging out in the office, even though I had my business, I had a nice office on the west side. And by the way, there was nothing glamorous about Quest. I would go visit them, and they were on the border of Compton in a little industrial strip.
Yeah.
and there was no promise of a future. They probably had an office the size of this office with
Were they manufacturing there?
There, yeah.
And did they had their own? Did they have a proprietary wrapper at that point, or was it still like?
No, they created a wrapper in it, but the machinery and everything was really old and antiquated.
Yeah.
They always were breaking down every few hours, but they had like 8 desks in an office like this, little kid's desk, and so like I said, there was no. As a matter of fact, I remember I told one of my friends, I left one day and thought, I don't think they're going to be around.
Yeah.
It's just that there was no appearance of success. You know what I mean?
Right.
But what I liked is their passion and their spirit, and they're like, oh yeah, we're going to make this work. It's going to be amazing. And
so what initially motivated you to even help them? Was it did you have an end game in mind, like, or was it just like I like the protein bar?
Zero. There was no end game. Literally, I like them. I like their spirit, and I like the product.
Yeah.
And it's a weird thing, and I always tell people this. I hope everyone finds their why in life. It became my why. Because what happened is people started writing us on blogs and hey, I lost 30 pounds over the last 3 months, and it's because of Quest bars, or I've got diabetes, or I've got celiac disease, and this has been my go-to snack that's really helped me in the hard times. And it really became like, wow, like it was almost like, wow, we're changing people's lives. People are feeling good about eating our product.
So at what point did they bring you into the business?
After 9 months. Ron actually said, starting Friday, we're going to put you on the payroll.
And you're just kind of promoting at this point.
Promoting, just give me product, I'll get it in people's hands. And I kept doing it, and they said, we're going to put you on the payroll. It was a stipend. It was probably your average American salary, but to me, it wasn't changing my life because I was doing quite well with my business, right?
Yeah.
But once they started paying me, and I think it goes back to it must have been I instilled in my father like a work ethic thing.
Right.
I was like, shit, now I'm getting a paycheck. Now I really got to, oh my God, now what do I got to do?
I got to start producing.
Yeah, I literally felt like that. So I started showing up at their office every day. And after a while, I mean, the security ran itself. I'd get calls and I could manage it, and I staffed. I started spending more time there, and they finally were like, hey, you're here a lot more. I said, I just really enjoy it. And I told them, they asked me what I was making, and they're like, oh, we can't afford you, but we like you being around. And I just started doing, I always tell people this, I just started bringing value, and I had no expectations. I didn't ask for anything. Matter of fact, there was a period of time where if someone mentioned we need trash cans, I would go to IKEA at night and buy them. I didn't wait for someone else to say that's not my job. I would just do whatever it took. Matter of fact, over the holidays, they were talking about building out a studio, like a lounge. And we were shut down for like 12 days. I went and got the carpet, the paint. I bought the furniture. And when they came back from the holiday break, this was only 2 years into our relationship, they said, Bruce must have been here over the holidays. I wasn't even around. I was traveling. So that's the value. I always tell people, bring value to your company. Don't just sit in your cubicle and think that's all I do. Just whatever it needs to do to make the company success. And that's really what I did. And obviously evolved 9 years later. I was the chief communications officer, managing most of the relationships with GNC and Vitamin Shop and all our partners. And I literally, people thought I was the owner. Because I was out every...
You were the face of this thing.
Yeah, 40 weekends a year I was traveling, and people assume, well, you must be the owner, I never said it, but that's what people thought.
Wow.
I call it pride in ownership.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
And then ultimately, what ended up happening with Quest? You guys sold it off?
Sold it to Atkins.
Okay.
Everyone's familiar with Atkins,
Yeah.
so it's a big merger. It was sold for $1 billion cash.
Wow.
Which I didn't know this till recently. I verified it, but Alex Hermosi had said this, that there's only been 1,500 billion-dollar companies in the world. So we're one of 1,500. The interesting thing is the other company that I'm part of now, Legendary, will potentially be another $1 billion company in 3 years.
That's phenomenal. So you go from there, the business sells, you get a little piece of the action because they ended up taking care of you because you served them so well over the years. That's phenomenal. And then you've transitioned into this new business. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so Ron, probably about a year prior to us selling, Quest started. It was a small nut butter and seasoned nut company called Legendary Foods. And didn't really go anywhere. Just kind of sold online and did some things. But I was helping them, again, on the side. And then once we completely exited Quest, I dove in to help Legendary. And now we have kind of the same theme. Everything's protein, high protein, low carb, gluten-free. But the good news is now we're making things that are more attracted to your everyday person. If you want to call healthy Pop-Tarts, right? Everyone, if you grew up anywhere in the States, you had a Pop-Tart as a kid.
Absolutely.
So now we have a healthy version of a Pop-Tart, a sweet roll, and we just launched chips a few weeks ago, protein chips.
That's
and we have other exciting things coming. So
awesome. So what are is this your main gig now? I mean, this is what you're running with?
This is the primary. I mean, the security, and I help a couple other brands. There's a company called BLK Water.
Yeah.
I like helping people grow their brands. That's my
because I'm assuming you still have incredible connections
Yeah.
within the influencer space.
Yeah, and a lot of them just rolled over. As a matter of fact, people sometimes are confused. They're like, "Wait, you're not with Quest anymore?" And have to explain the story. But yeah, it's the same space, the same influencers, and it's all relationships, right?
That's phenomenal. What are some key moments in your career that like where it was like extremely difficult and then you pushed through?
I think I've been on the brink of failure a few times.
Yeah, tell us about that.
And I think when I had the security company, I was not the most savvy I knew how to service people and provide the protection and the planning and the logistics, but I wasn't good on the back end as far as bookkeeping and math and all that. And I remember it's a really good learning lesson for me and for anyone in business. My payroll was growing and growing. I remember my bookkeeper called me, which was probably the first problem. I only had a bookkeeper. I didn't even have an accountant. So she was just a woman that worked at home and said, "Hey, your payroll's due on Friday and it's $75,000." I'm like, "All right, cool."
Hey.
She goes, "But you only have 30 in the bank." And I didn't know about, I realized payables, people owe you money 30, 60, 90 days out.
You had a ton in receivables.
A ton that was out there. And the studios, which they love to hold their money, the big studios. So I was like, oh, well, what do I do? I cashed out my pension, the money I put invested for LAPD to pay my payroll, which now looking back, all the people I know, I could have called up any 5 people I know, "Hey, man, I need to borrow $50,000. How do I do this?"
Right.
Credit lines. I was too embarrassed to call my parents because I had to be a failure. So I was like, it was more of a little bit of embarrassment. And also, I ended up, I filed bankruptcy at some point.
Oh, really?
Over that because I didn't know how to get out of it.
Chapter 11 or Chapter 7?
11.
Oh, good. So, restructured.
I restructured. I covered. I paid everyone back. But my point is now what I've learned is like, ask for help, man. Like, if you don't know what you're doing, ask people. And I didn't realize there's so many people that have money and there's so many variable ways to get money and borrow money. And anyway, so that was a real devastating, but I recovered, but it was really like, holy shit. I didn't know what I didn't know.
Yeah, I think that's such an incredible principle that everyone has to learn in their life is like, quit trying to figure it out on your own.
Yeah.
Quit trying to be the know-it-all that like, hey, I'm just going to put my head down and grind through this. Because there's somebody out there that's been through the exact same situation that has a solution.
Yeah.
Right? Like I actually had to go through bankruptcy early in my career. Right? So I filed bankruptcy in 2010, a couple years after I'd launched my business, 2.2 million, lost everything, card repoed, that whole, and knowing what I know now, even though I saw no way out, like there was a way to get through that. And had I used mentors or someone else that could help identify the blind spots, I think that's such like a powerful principle that we have to all learn at one point or another.
Yeah. And the interesting thing is, down as I've ever been, because I have talked to people that sometimes they're down and out. Even when I was at my lowest, I'm like, shit, like, okay, I'm in debt and what am I going to do? I still felt like, well, life is great, man. I can wake up, I work out, I'm still can feed myself. So I always encourage people, no matter how bad it gets, you're gonna be okay.
I agree 100%. And the fact that you've been through that and I've been through that, I think it's like one of our superpowers because most people won't take the initiative to start something because they're so scared of the downside, the failure, the potential of like going through bankruptcy or whatnot, and only to realize that like having gone through it, it's like, life really isn't that bad.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and if that's the worst it can get.
Exactly.
Right? Like, then let's go risk it all.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. And I think the people that, and I don't begrudge people to do 9 to 5. I mean, God bless them, but I think they tell themselves a story that, and it rationalizes, well, I can't do that. I'm not qualified. I'm not able to. And really anyone can start a business.
Yeah.
It's not hard, especially now when I see these kids that are doing like reselling stuff on Amazon and come up with these side hustles. And you can literally call someone and say, hey, can you help manufacture a protein bar for me? I don't want to even touch it. Just make the label, and I'm just going to sell it online. There's so many opportunities out there now.
Agreed.
Side hustles. It's crazy.
I appreciate that. I agree with you. What are like the biggest motivating factors in your life, right? Like you've lived, close to 60 years on this planet, and you've accomplished a lot of incredible things. Like what gets you out of bed in the morning right
now? You'll edit that out about being 60, by the way, but I'm kidding. I love life. Yeah. I get up every morning. I meet my training partners at 7 a.m. sharp. Monday through Friday. On weekends, I work out myself or I meet other people. But I don't know. I mean, life is short, right? And I think Jesse Isler said it right. Yeah. He says, you only have so many experiences you're going to be able to do in this lifetime, right?
Yep.
And I know he does mountain climbing. He takes kids on ski trips. And I feel the same way. I want to have as many experiences as I can. I've got 3 great kids. And
how old are your kids now?
my daughter's a nurse locally. She's 34. My son's a contractor. He's 33, and the other daughter's 30.
Fantastic. Any grandkids?
Yeah, 2.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
Wow, he's
awesome.
really aging me out,
Oh
man.
man,
Yeah,
this is great.
No, they're
Celebrate
great.
it.
No, they're
Celebrate
great
it.
kids. They're great kids.
That's
They
awesome.
just can't call me grandpa. No,
You know- well,
no,
you
I'm
know-
kidding. I'm kidding.
I get.
But so I feel like we only have so much time, right? I don't know how I'm 60. I mean, I still feel so. I realize all that time went by, right? And there's a lot of things to still accomplish. I say, do we do things for money? I don't do things for money. Money facilitates life, right?
For sure.
It pays the rent, pays the bills, helps your family. But there's much more to life than money.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's the experiences and knowledge. And I'm working on a couple books because I feel like I owe it to somebody to say, hey, here's an experience I had. Here's what I learned. Here's what I suffered.
So what would you say in your book? What is your message to the world?
Well, so here's the thing. I met the founders of Quest when I was 46, right? Some people are already like, their trajectory is already set. Like 46, I'm already thinking about my 401k and we're talking about retiring. I don't think it's ever too late to start anything.
I love that.
And when you Google those names, like the founder of McDonald's and these names of guys that didn't really start doing anything until well past 40, right?
Right. Yeah. So KFC.
He was
Colonel Sanders. He was in his 60s.
Yeah. So it's never too late. And I always encourage people, like I always get a song and dance for people. Well, I can't do it. Of course, why can't you? By the matter of fact, I've taught from my kids, if I can't figure something out, they'll say it's on YouTube. And literally everything is on YouTube.
It really is.
So I think I want to encourage people to pursue their passion and their dreams. That's my objective. And
so that's the message.
Yeah,
Pursue your passion.
Pursue it. I mean, yeah, don't make yourself homeless over it, but figure it out. Like a side hustle is easy. Tell people, listen, you're in your cubicle for 9 to 5. I'm just say cubicle, but you're in your 9 to 5 job. What are you doing after 5 o'clock till 9?
Right.
Well, I'm going to have a glass of wine. Or, well, maybe figure out how you do that internet business or figure out how you start that side hustle.
I love it. So what are your passions right now, like outside of work, outside of, working out and whatnot? Are you a big travel guy or what?
I love traveling. I don't do enough traveling.
Yeah.
But I love it.
What's your favorite place in the world?
Oh, God, Australia.
Australia,
I've been
really?
a few times.
I've never been to Australia.
Yeah, I went.
Tell me about it.
The first time I went for the Arnold Classic, the expo, and it's just a beautiful country. I made some good friends down there.
Awesome.
Where else is great? Germany. The only place I haven't gone, I want to go to Bali.
Bali.
Yeah.
Nice.
It looks fascinating on all the pictures and videos.
Bali does look fantastic. The Maldives is a place that I
all these fitness influencers go there for photo shoots. So I'm gonna bring the chips.
I love it. So what? So you're working on this book.
Yeah.
Do you have a title for it yet?
There's 2 books. One is My Quest, My Journey.
Yes.
Quest means journey, and the other one is, a lot of people don't know what this means, but I was really an entrepreneur at Quest. An entrepreneur is
yes.
But I really ran my own show. Mm-hmm. And the unique thing about those guys was when I started helping them, and I would say, hey, what do you I'd say, do whatever you want. So I started the events department. I started the ambassador program. I started a wow factory, we called it, which I learned from Tony Hsieh, Delivering Happiness.
Yeah. Fantastic book.
Yeah. And I had good fortune to meet him. And I really believed in that, and so I was able to create all those opportunities, and no one stopped me.
Yeah.
And at some point, the founder even Ron said, you don't need to ask. I mean, as long as it's like you're not spending stupid money, like just let us know. But so I think it's important you don't have to be an employee. You don't have to be a W-2. You can still be an entrepreneur in a lot of businesses.
Right.
Take the initiative, go outside the box, do whatever. I'm not saying be a kiss ass. That's a different thing, but create opportunities. And I think leadership will clearly see that if you want to do more than what's expected, and maybe look for holes in the business that you're working in, even if you're an employee.
So I'm a big believer that every human on this earth has a gift to give, mm-hmm. right? A skill set, something that like makes them extremely unique. What would you say yours is?
I love giving with no expectation in return.
Give us some examples.
It's endless. I mean, giving product to people.
I mean, obviously, you showed us the example with what you were doing with Quest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm a big charitable guy. I mean, I love. I don't know if you know Dan Fleischman. He got me involved with.
I love Dan.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So he got me involved with Trina's kids. So I do all his charities, all the toy drives.
That's phenomenal.
At Christmas morning, I was down at the Midnight Mission. I think I was pretty fortunate. I grew up very middle class.
Yeah.
My parent didn't let it. We didn't know whether we were rich or poor. We just we
Right.
had what we needed, right? And we were 5 of us. But I feel like when you see some of these kids that don't get anything, or you're down to these toy giveaways, and they're only gonna that's what they're gonna get for
Right.
Christmas. I just feel like, for me anyway, I don't care what other people do. I invite my rich friends. I invite my poor friends. Some show up, some don't. But it's a feel good for me.
Yeah.
I feel like, I'm in a good position to help other people. Why not?
Right.
And Dan's the same way, right?
Dan is like modern day Superman. Like I don't understand how he does everything he does.
No, he's great, and I've actually learned from him. Like, and I'm an investor in his ranch down at the Black Site Ranch. Yeah,
awesome, down there with the real Tarzan,
and Bedros Koulian.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, so giving back is really important to me.
Yeah,
and I think I think leave some mark.
Yeah,
not to be famous, but just to leave a mark of what you've done to bring value to the world.
Yeah. What would you say your biggest regret is? And that you would do differently if you could do it all over again?
Probably time with my kids. My 2 older kids I met their mom. She was in the Navy. I was in the Marine Corps. It didn't work out. And there was quite a lot of gaps of years where they were out of state. And I was working hard, thinking I was doing the right thing in life. And probably much time I didn't spend with them.
So, what would you do differently? Obviously spend time. Like, how would you change that?
You obviously manage time better, right?
Yeah.
I could have easily done it, but I always had a reason why I wasn't for some reason. So it's not a good quality at that time.
This is something that a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with.
Yeah.
Right? Like being family man, family woman, right? Having kids, but like dedicating so much to their hustle, to the everything else. And it's really.
And you justify it, you rationalize it, right? Hey, I'm making all this
for them.
I'm doing it for them. I'm making all this money. And my dad was, at the time, he would have been called a workaholic. Now he'd be an entrepreneur, right?
Yeah.
But he still balanced his time. Like, he was our scout leader. He helped with the Little League coaching. So he found a way to balance it. So, yeah, I wasn't the greatest at balancing it when I was younger. Now I'm much more sane about that.
Yeah. What are your philosophies on balance? Like, how does that work?
I don't work-life balance. It sounds a little whatever. But I think as long as you spread yourself evenly, and if you see holes and, hey, oh, wow, someone needs more attention, give it to them. Adjust your schedule. Maybe take a day off. Or
Love it.
I like spending more time with the kids than I did before.
Yeah. What is some advice that you give to like a younger entrepreneur? Maybe some habits that have changed your life, or things that you've done over and over again. Like what kind of advice would you give?
I think, get in a routine and have the discipline to follow it. A lot of people, I think, are into pleasure early on, which is great. Everyone, who doesn't want to go to Vegas and hang out? Who doesn't want to go to Cabo? But you gotta find a balance and be disciplined. I think I wish I was more disciplined when I was younger, actually, to focus on the things that are to make money, succeed, and then. At
what point do you feel like you figured it out?
I'm still working on that, but I think I figured it out probably like 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah. So in your 40s.
Yeah. But I've had my mishaps, my mistakes. I think to be disciplined enough, listen, I think discipline is really important.
Yeah.
And have a game plan.
Right.
There's so many opportunities, and I don't know, a lot of people say, "Oh, I'll get to that. I'll do it tomorrow." And
Yeah, it's interesting that every single person, I've interviewed close to 100 entrepreneurs for my podcast and met, thousands of others. Every single person's path is completely different.
Yeah.
Right. And I think one of the traps that we fall into as entrepreneurs is we try to compare ourselves.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Like, let me look at Bruce's story. How am I lining up? Am I on track to be able to accomplish what Bruce did but the reality is like, that's not how we should be looking at life.
No, not at all.
Right. What would you say to the people that are trying to compare themselves to you?
I don't, because I even find myself sometimes. I see someone that's successful. Wait, what did they do differently? Just be yourself, right?
Yeah.
We're all uniquely ourselves, and we're gonna find our own way. Doesn't mean you can't learn from other people.
Yeah.
But everyone's an anomaly.
Where would you say, like, different things that you learned along the way, whether through books or school or mentors? Like, what were some life-changing education points in your life?
I would say probably I learned everything from practical application, from being around people and seeing how they operated, and the discipline and what they put into making things successful. I wasn't a big book guy.
Yep.
I am now. I listen to a lot of audiobooks, but I wasn't for years. And I didn't learn a lot in school. Even though when in the Marine Corps, I got my degree only because my boss at the time was like, "Hey,
required it."
Yeah, hey, it's free. Go to school at night." So I think everything I learned from either watching people in action, including my father who had a great work ethic, and then figuring it out.
So who would you say are your biggest mentors or examples of who you've strived to be like?
Gosh, that might be a tough question to answer.
Yeah.
There's people I admire. I watch Bedros Keuilian, right?
Yep.
I admire. He's a friend, and I admired what he's done. Came here in the country with nothing, didn't speak English, and now has a gym chain, and we're partners in that ranch together. Dan Fleischman.
Yeah.
Ed Milet.
Ed, yeah. Do you know Ed well?
I've met him a few times at events, and we've talked.
Yeah, Ed's a stud.
Andy Frisella.
Yeah,
and his brother Sal, who built the First Forum from nothing. I used to be part of their circle, so I still go out and visit them. I don't know if I want to be like anyone, but I've taken away from everything they've done.
Yeah.
And no one got a free ride.
Right.
Any one of those guys,
Yep.
No one inherited money and just.
So what does a day in your life look like right now? An average day. What time you wake up? What are you doing? How are you passing time?
Yeah, I'm not a big ritual guy. Like everyone's doing ice baths and meditation shit. By the time you got all that done, you'd be like 3 PM.
Yeah.
I literally wake up at 6 o'clock every morning.
Yep.
And I drink. I'll usually drink a quart of water on the way to the gym. No pre-work. I've never had a pre-workout.
So it sounds like you are a ritual guy. The gym.
The gym is a ritual. Yeah, for sure. And then it's either there's either going to the office, multiple offices wherever whatever brand I'm helping.
Yep.
Podcasts or I still travel quite a bit.
Yeah.
I like going.
How often are you traveling?
At least once or twice a month.
Okay.
I'm going down to Austin next week for Gabrielle Lyons is having her Dr. Gabrielle Lyons.
Okay.
Is having a conference. And then
are you speaking at these events, attending? What are you?
Some I speak at, some I attend. I'm attending the Aspire events now.
Yeah.
That Dan's
with
part
Dan's,
of.
Yep. Yeah. I spoke at his event out in Atlanta.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
As a panel or an individual?
I was on as a panel.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm trying to get.
Nice.
I want to be on one of the panels at least.
Yeah. It's a good way to start out getting it rolling with those guys.
Yeah. So you were out. Yeah. So Clinton Sparks is a good friend.
Yeah. Clinton's stud.
Yeah. Tim Story.
Yep. I'm interviewing Tim tomorrow.
Oh, here?
Not here at this, but down by his place.
Oh, man, yeah, we're friends.
Okay.
We belong to his World Shakers Society.
Oh,
we speak on every.
very cool.
Good people.
Yes.
So I have found this actually one thing I do recommend, and that's one thing I didn't do early on, is being around the right people. I didn't even realize there was those kind of circles.
Right.
And they're out there, but I didn't realize till later on that. It was
the power of a mentor.
The power of a mentor and being around the great people. Because, they say, well, you're the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. That's definitely true. Mm-hmm. And I've found myself being elevated when I'm at these events because I'm like, oh, shit, those guys are working hard.
Yeah.
I'm slacking. You think that, whether you are. But my point is the more that you're around those kind of people, the greater I think you feel, too.
Yeah. What is a belief or an opinion that you hold that most people would disagree with?
Oh gosh, belief or an opinion.
That a lot of people would be like, what?
I don't know. I'm a little bit of a libertarian now, but I'm still a big gun rights advocate.
Yeah,
huge.
Yeah, me too.
I never got vaccinated.
Hey, let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go.
I'm a very patriotic guy, even though now you're patriotic, and it's kind of like you're something other than that. People think,
Right.
So, I just. I don't know. I have a lot of integrity.
Yeah.
I'm very loyal to a fault, probably.
Yeah. You sound like a very conservative guy.
Yeah.
Classic values.
Classic values. And don't get me wrong, even though it's interesting, even though I was a cop and I have all these beliefs, I still have seen people who have gone to prison. I have friends of mine and clients that are doing the prison reform.
Absolutely.
And I admire that because there's people that are probably in prison that shouldn't be there.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's the libertarian side of you.
Kind of like, even though I was a cop, I'm like, whoa, that didn't sound good.
Right.
And, when I talk about police work, I was very unique. I learned I was more of a public relations cop than in the academy to teach you rules and regulations. And I learned that there's a spirit of the law, there's a letter of the law. I always worked within the spirit of the law.
Right.
And the world's not
you don't
black.
do things just because you're told to do it.
Right?
And the world, you got to actually interpret it.
I interpret it, and I'd realize that not everyone needs to go to jail. Not everyone's a bad person.
Right.
And I was a little frowned upon at times. I took a different approach when I was a cop. Some of my partners didn't agree with me. I'd say, this guy doesn't need to go to jail because he's got some dope in his pocket, you know.
Yeah.
And I'd say the guy's 19, it will ruin his life.
Tell me about a time when you were a cop and you were scared for your life.
Oh, several times. I was in a shootout in Hollywood, big running gun battle. I wasn't scared at the time. It's interesting when the fight or flight comes into play.
Yeah.
You're just engaged.
You don't think.
No, you don't think about it. You just do it. But I think
reflecting on it.
afterwards you're kind of like, oh shit.
I could have been dead.
Yeah. So there's some times in the police where we got involved with some bad stuff, and
Yeah.
and you know, it was rough.
Yeah. Wow.
Where, you know, life threatening. You know.
Yeah. Well, Bruce, man, you have a very interesting and colorful story, right? Like you've got so many different experiences. Who are some of the people? So you've obviously been involved with many influential people. Who have been some of the most non-entrepreneurial, but we're talking like some of the more famous people that you've been involved in? Like who are like the coolest people that you wouldn't even necessarily know that they're that awesome?
Celebrity wise, or
yeah, celebrity wise.
Charlie Sheen was a good guy back.
Charlie
in the day.
Sheen.
Sorry about this cough.
You're good.
Yeah.
Interesting. What made him such a good guy?
He's very humble and giving off the camera, but behind the scenes. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. And would you is that not the case with a lot of these celebrities?
Yeah, I think so. A lot of them are, you know, a little pretentious, and
they think that they're God's gift to everything.
Sorry about this coughing fit.
You're good.
You're good. Me up.
You know, we're not gonna. Yeah. We won't hold you too much longer. With you got a bad cough going on. What would you say if you were to recommend any book to our audience that would be a drastic life changer for people?
Extreme Ownership.
Love that one.
Delivering Happiness.
Yeah.
Two of my favorites.
Awesome. What are a couple things that you love about each one?
I think Jocko speaks the truth. Accountability.
Right.
You know, you got to look in the mirror every day.
Yeah. Not lie to yourself.
Yeah, a lot of people do.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think
delivering happiness.
I tell people that most people want to do business with people they like.
Yeah.
And that's really important. I think a lot of people are fooled because, hey, I have great sales, but that doesn't mean they like you.
Yeah.
It's really important. If you have a business or a product, you want people to like you.
Yeah.
It's important.
Yeah, absolutely. So for the listeners, where's the best place to follow you and get a hold of you if there's a way that they can serve you or help you out?
Probably Instagram, Bruce E. Cardenas. And I have a website, brucecardenas.com.
All right. Awesome. And then obviously you got the new product out, which is pretty exciting.
Yeah.
With Legendary. This is actually the first time I've heard of it. Is it in a lot of stores and different things?
Yeah, we're everywhere. GNC, Vitamin Shop, Amazon, Target, Walmart.
Fantastic. I guess I just don't shop very much. My wife does, pickup and delivery.
Oh, yeah.
And so
it's growing quite well. It's gonna do well. It's doing well.
That's exciting. Exciting. So what are the big goals that you're going after?
To make that $1 billion brand.
I love it.
There's only a couple $1 billion companies in the world. So Elon Musk has made a couple, and a couple other people.
Right. Yeah. It's but the cool thing is you've created and the recipe for success. I think just most people, once they found the recipe, they don't keep going.
Exactly. Or people go part way down and realize, well, it was really hard to do, and they tap out.
I'm just not willing to go through that.
Yeah.
Again.
I think we figured it out with this, and I think anyone that has a consumable item, I always tell them, fail fast. If you're going to make a bar or a cookie, make it small, get people to try it and see if it's going to work.
I love that.
Before you expand.
I love that. Yeah, my son and his business partner, I have a 15-year-old boy, and they wanted to make like these little supplement gummies. And I was like, man, you got to figure out whether or not this stuff will even sell, or
make samples, get them in the neighbors.
Yeah.
Get your friends to try it, and if you get excited, so we did at Quest. We got excitement, and then we built it out.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that. Bruce, I appreciate your time. Thank you for coming out. I know, it's extremely valuable. Thank you for the value bombs that you've dropped with the crowd. Any final words?
No, I'm grateful to be here. I want to continue to help change the world.
I appreciate it.
And thank you.
Until next time.